Hi, and welcome to the Institute for Restorative Health. I'm Dr. David Jowdy. Today we're going to be talking about healing from chronic illness with the BioRestorative Method. One thing to remember, the contents of this video are for educational purposes only, and this does not replace medical care from your medical provider. So please use this information for your benefit, but not to replace your medical care. When you get a chance on the video, please read through our disclaimer here too. So what is the BioRestorative Matrix? What this is it's a grouping of objectives that we have in treating patients not only with chronic illness, but with any health problem. When we address all of these areas of your body, we feel that we can get you to complete resolution of whatever your health problems are. What is the outcome? Essentially, our ideal outcome for anyone dealing with a chronic illness or a health problem is to reclaim, restore, and renew your health in mind, body, and spirit. So it takes a good look at the body, and it takes multiple avenues of healing in order to accomplish this. Today's lecture, we're going to be looking at these areas, and we're going to take a brief overview of each of them. Check back with us some other time, and we're going to go into depth on each one of these systems as well. So how would we improve our physical health through autonomic balance? The key to this is to understand what the autonomic nervous system is. And what that is broken down into two main categories, your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. Your sympathetic is the fight or flight. It's when we're being chased by a lion, when we're being stressed from society, from the environment. And the parasympathetic system is when we calm down from that and our body is at rest and we are digesting our food and we are digesting our nutrients. Now when these systems are out of balance, or it's possible to even be stuck in one system or the other, then we manifest a myriad of different physical symptoms. And some of that depends on what systems of our body are affected by this. When we're in fight or flight, our body is prioritizing going and going and going and not resting. When that happens, our physical body can break down. And we don't have enough time for stresses that we encounter over the course of a day to heal and repair the next day over. When we're stuck in the parasympathetic mode, then our bodies are at rest and we're very tired and we're very run down, and our bodies don't get turned on or cranked up to the point where we're doing something really, really active. And when that happens, things start to get stagnant in our body and things start to settle. So it's really, really important that we have balance between these two systems. There are numerous ways to treat this process, but essentially it's to find calm when we're stressed and to find activation when our body is unable to create that activation on its own. The next thing that we'll look at is strengthening our digestion by addressing our gut microbiome. Microbiome is a really big word, okay, but what that really assimilates to is the internal mixture of tens of trillions of microbes, some beneficial and some harmful, that inhabit our bodies on the inside. Some will look at this only in the digestive tract, but our microbiome does extend out throughout our bloodstream and throughout our body. So it starts in the GI tract and extends out to other areas. How do we strengthen that? Ideally, we get rid of the harmful microbes and we add more of the beneficial microbes. Now, that's a kind of a simplistic version of all of that. It's not just as easy as taking a probiotic. There's major changes to the environment that need to occur in order for this process to not only correct itself, but to hold and stay that way for the future. So when the beneficial bacteria are depleted, the harmful ones are more likely to run wild and cause problems within our body. This causes disruptions in the GI system, which then extend to our nervous system and our circulatory system, and eventually can lead to problems throughout our body. Especially interfering with absorption and assimilation of nutrients. If we don't absorb our nutrients right, then our cells can't heal. Many will actually say that the GI tract and any problems that occur in the GI tract are the major cause of illnesses, especially chronic illnesses and autoimmune diseases. So it's really, really important that we correct this area and cultivate an environment that good bacteria, good microbes, good cells will occur in the body. And of course, get rid of the harmful ones as much as possible. The BioTerrain, this is a word, I love this word. It really associates to the internal cellular matrix within our bodies. And when our BioTerrain is healthy, we can enhance our elimination. Elimination is toxins, nutrients, what we call biological toxins, things that are broken down in the body as a result of proper and effective nutrient absorption and utilization. So how do we cultivate the BioTerrain? I think of this kind of as letting the grass in your backyard grow too high. Once that happens, there's going to be all sorts of little critters that are living in there, and you don't see them, and you don't necessarily know they're there. You may not even know the effects of them. Then when you get out there and try to mow that grass when it's 2 feet high, it's going to be really, really challenging. It takes a lot more effort to bring it down to a normal level. And at that point, there's a lot of stuff that's living in there or that's been captured or stuck in there that your lawn can't handle. And eventually the grass will die. This happens in our bodies as well. If we cultivate a healthy BioTerrain or a healthy cellular environment in our bodies, that promotes the growth and development and the maturation of good, healthy cells. So unhealthy BioTerrain allows those harmful, potentially toxic cells, microbes, all sorts of toxins to linger in our body, and not only linger, but to collect and then can grow upon themselves. It's much easier to maintain a healthy BioTerrain than it is to cultivate one. So most chronic illnesses have a major effect coming from the BioTerrain and the imbalances in the BioTerrain. So it's important to go back and heal those cells, eliminate toxins, eliminate waste products, and then when there's a healthy BioTerrain, you will eliminate those things much easier as well. Strengthening your emotional health. It's my firm belief that in any health problem, your body must be healed in mind, body, and spirit. So the emotional health ties into that mind and spirit side, and we do that through neuroplastic retraining. The idea behind neuroplastic retraining is that your brain is able to withstand stressors from the environment and any shifts in thought patterns, any shifts in consciousness that you may have over the course of days or weeks or years, even if you get into a negative mindset, can be turned back into a positive mindset. That's the idea behind plasticity within the brain. It means that it's moldable, it's shapeable, it is changeable. And while it's changeable in a negative way, you can do many things to change it back into a positive direction. Cells, all cells in our body carry memories, not just the cells in our brain, but many of our cells are governed by our nervous system. So those memories, both good and bad, of things that we encounter throughout our lifetime shape how our cells will act and how they will react to stress. These memories dictate when we perceive stress as well. Many people say, I'm doing something and it doesn't feel stressful, but my body feels stressed out by it. That's an improper perception of something that should not be a stressor for you. The main system within our brains that governs this is called the limbic system. And that's where many of these memories are held, and also the reactions to stressors are initiated. So it's a very important piece of the healing puzzle to make sure that your nervous system is reacting favorably, reacting the way that it's supposed to, and you can retrain your limbic system to adapt appropriately to stressors. Okay. We talk about the autonomic nervous system before, and I jokingly say that's, part of that is when you're being chased by a lion. Very few people get chased by lions these days, but the reality is our brain sometimes feels like it's being chased by a lion when all we're doing is driving down the interstate, or we're late for an appointment, or we're on our way to the grocery store and the line is really long, and it stresses us out. These things should not be that stressful to us. But our brains perceive it that way. Our limbic system and our nervous system perceives it that way because of all the experiences that we've had. So this can be turned around, this can be corrected, and there are ways of addressing that through natural healing. Heart-brain coherence. This is an interesting one. And it ties back into the nervous system, but also what we consider an inherent nervous system that exists, an electrical system that exists within the heart as an organ itself. I'm sure we've all heard the stories or seen a program on TV or watched a medical documentary of some sort where someone had a traumatic brain injury. And it was obvious through all the tests that neurologically their brain was not firing off. It wasn't functioning the way that it was supposed to. But when they checked that person's heart, the heart is still beating. The heart is still going, and it's still keeping that person alive. Now, they may need to be on some sort of oxygen to keep them alive, but while their brain has shut down, their heart continues to be active. So we know that the heart has its own electrical system. And because it has its own electrical system, it has its own internal interactions. Those interactions occur within itself, but also with the brain, with the other electrical systems running through the human body. Now, when these systems are balanced, it's a term called coherence, and they work in unison to maintain homeostasis and maintain a proper operating environment in our bodies, and we feel good. We feel less stress. Many times we feel calm, and then even if we do get stressed, because we're in a more coherent state, our body can pull out of that stress much easier, much more effectively, and sometimes without even creating symptoms or problems for us. Now, when the heart and brain are out of balance, the body can get into a stress loop that's very difficult to get out of. Your nervous system is trying to control your body in one way, your heart is trying to control your body in another way, and it's almost as if they're battling each other to try to get you out of a stress response. And what that actually creates is more stress on the body. The harder you pull to get yourself out of the quicksand, the more the sand kind of pulls you in. So it's incredibly important for your heart and your brain to be operating within coherence. They can still operate independently of each other, but they have to be communicating together and certainly communicating in the same language and in the same electrical wavelength. Cellular health. Much of what we see nowadays with changes in our environment and changes in the foods that we eat and the types of stressors that we encounter now versus stressors we maybe encountered in the 80s, back to the 60s, and even long before that, pushes up against our genetics. And when we talk about epigenetic nutrition and epigenetic messages, what that is essentially it's the environment's effect on our genetic potential. We're all born with certain genetic SNPs, they're called. And this may be a limitation in our genetic potential on a cellular level that doesn't allow our body to quite process everything as perfectly as it should. In a concealed environment or in a very sterile environment, those genetic issues may or may not create huge problems. But once we encounter an environment of stressors that our body can't handle, it becomes a major problem. In my estimation, more issues with the epigenetics occur than just our genetic potential as is. If we lived in a world that had no, let's say, chemicals that were put on foods, no pesticides, no chemicals, then would anyone with a chemical issue, a problem detoxing those chemicals, have a genetic problem? And the answer is potentially no. I've seen and heard of many individuals who either move to a different area or avoid a certain substance, and by doing so, their health improves dramatically. And the reason is they're not pushing up against that faulty genetic potential that they had to begin with. So the keys to this are not pushing our bodies any farther than what they can handle, but also trying to support and provide nutrients and provide help to those cells to allow them to deal with the stressors that we're going to encounter in the environment. The bad news is, folks, the environment isn't getting any less stressful. There's more and more chemicals in the environment, more and more plastics, more and more electromagnetic field waves, breakdowns within, let's say, the ozone layer and all sorts of things within our environment. We live in a pretty toxic world, and it's going to take a number of generations to get out of that. So beyond trying to avoid everything that could harm us, we want to do as much as we possibly can to support our bodies from the inside out so that we can handle those stressors much more effectively. Those are the main pieces of the BioRestorative matrix. Keep in touch with us, watch for more videos, subscribe and follow our videos on YouTube and on Facebook at iRestore Health, and we're going to bring much more information to you on not only the restorative matrix, but all the other great things that we do here at the Institute for Restorative Health. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.